President Xi make any firm commitment to put pressure on the Iranians to reopen the Strait of Hormuz?
I'm not asking for any favors, because when you ask for favors, you have to do favors in return. We don't need favors.
As Beijing politely sidesteps Trump's Iran proposal, is Mojtaba Khamenei now seizing the moment with his first major statement, casting Iran as defiant, self-reliant and ready for a very different kind of war? With Trump flying home under a cloud of mixed messages and stalled talks, is Mojtaba quietly kicking off a revenge phase, using America's China humiliation as fuel for a new resistance narrative? And after Trump's much-touted China trip delivers no Iran breakthrough, is Iran's supreme leader now rolling out a longer-term master plan, one that moves the fight from tankers and missiles into minds and culture? When Mojtaba speaks of an onslaught of the world's devils and says Iran is now better prepared, is he signaling that the nation's next battles will be waged as much in language and identity as on any battlefield? As he urges writers and artists to step up, is Iran effectively launching a cultural counteroffensive, moving fast to weaponize poetry, history, and the Persian language just as US power looks exposed and overstretched? Amid a tense post-war atmosphere, Iran's supreme leader is turning art itself into a rallying cry, recasting the 40-day U.S. Israel assault as a new epic chapter in the country's struggle. On May 15th, Mojtaba Khamenei labeled the recent 40-day war the third sacred defense, deliberately placing it alongside Iran's earlier imposed wars as part of a single, sacred continuum. In his message, he honored medieval poet Hakim Abolkasem Ferdowsi as a symbol of Iranian identity and resistance, presenting literature as the backbone of national survival. Khamenei argued that Ferdowsi's Shahnameh no longer belongs only to legend, saying its tales now mirror Iran's modern war story and the sacrifices of today's fighters. He urged artists, writers, and filmmakers to immortalize the recent conflict through culture, insisting that the nation's great uprising must live on in song, story, and image, not just in battlefield memories. Interestingly, Khamenei warned that the United States is now attacking Iran in language, culture, and lifestyle, shifting the frame from missiles and sanctions to a slow-burn war over hearts and habits. He called for linguistic and discursive defense to blunt US influence over Iran's youth, effectively asking the cultural sector to build shields in vocabulary, stories, and values. Khamenei said, and I quote, "More than being just a tool for speech and writing, the Persian language is a framework for cognition and a thread that binds the thoughts and boundaries of Iranian identity. Persian language and literature are one of the greatest capacities for promoting the rich culture and civilization of Islamic Iran on the global stage. The recommendation of our wise, martyred leader, may God elevate his rank, for the Persian language to become stronger serves as a guiding light for establishing the authority of the Iranian Islamic civilization. In the third sacred defense, the dear nation of Iran has once again demonstrated, as it did in the two previous imposed wars, that Ferdowsi's legendary tales are a reality in life and a reflection of their heroic character. The valiant, Quranic concepts that build human beings in Shahnameh unite all Iranian ethnicities and social strata in preserving their identity, independence, and in the battle against the Zahak-like aggressors. This epic of presence, defense, and victory places a significant duty on the people of culture, literature, and the arts to rise as Ferdowsi did and bring about a Baitiche rising of the artists in the wake of the people's own Baitiche. They must blend thought, the pen, and the tongue with art to make the narrative of the nation's great uprising eternal in history. Furthermore, the courageous resistance and glorious victory against the onslaught of those demonic characters and the world's devils have made the nation better prepared to safeguard the independence of its civilization and to confront the American invasions in language, culture, and lifestyle. Through the initiative and innovations of those active in the cultural sphere, this preparedness will equip people with a defense in both language and discourse, thus fostering the growth and development of children, teenagers, and young people. In this way, they will be able to traverse the remaining stages toward the ultimate victory with greater steadfastness, with the help of Almighty God." Unquote. Khamenei's veiled cultural warning landed just as the Trump-Xi summit in Beijing wrapped up, underscoring how Tehran is already framing the next phase of struggle while Washington and Beijing argue over decline and deterrence. Donald Trump arrived in Beijing hoping China could help the United States address tensions with Iran and the growing crisis around passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Expectations were high that Xi Jinping might use Beijing's leverage over Tehran to push Iran toward accepting U.S. terms or at least to reduce actions that threaten commercial shipping through Hormuz. However, post-meeting readouts from both Washington and Beijing suggested the talks did not produce a meaningful shift in China's position on Iran or a clear new commitment to U.S. demands. China remains one of Iran's closest diplomatic partners and its largest oil customer, giving Beijing economic and strategic reasons to avoid measures that could be seen as directly confronting Tehran. After his first round of talks with Xi, Trump publicly claimed the Chinese leader offered to help resolve the conflict, framing the visit as potentially productive on the Iran question. Later, Secretary of State Marco Rubio told NBC that, according to his account, the United States had not formally asked China to provide specific assistance, complicating the administration's messaging. The White House said both sides agreed the Strait of Hormuz must remain open and that Iran should not acquire nuclear weapons, presenting those points as common ground from the meetings. However, China's statement about keeping Hormuz open could also be read as including opposition to external measures such as a U.S. blockade, leaving room for differing interpretations. She reportedly opposed any militarization of the strait or the imposition of tolls on shipping, emphasizing Beijing's preference for freedom of navigation without added security measures. Despite the talks, Beijing appeared to stick to its existing position on the conflict, reiterating long-standing principles without signaling a change in policy toward Iran. China had earlier called for normal passage through the Strait of Hormuz, language that emphasizes commercial transit but does not equate to taking sides in regional coercion. Notably, China's foreign ministry readout made no mention of support for shipping tolls or enforcement measures that would back a U.S. blockade, indicating caution in its public posture. Trump himself acknowledged limits to Xi's influence over Iran, noting in comments that the Chinese leader was unlikely to apply forceful pressure on Tehran. "He's not coming in with guns," Trump said when asked whether she could compel Iran to change course, underlining an understanding of Beijing's constraints. Hours later, China's foreign ministry reiterated that Beijing's position is very clear, signaling continuity and an unwillingness to adopt dramatic new steps for Washington. That statement strongly suggested China had no plans to alter its stance at Washington's behest, reinforcing perceptions of diplomatic distance on the Iran issue. The developments fueled speculation that China had effectively snubbed U.S. expectations by offering vague support for open navigation, but stopping short of concrete action against Iran. All this unfolded even before Trump's high-stakes Beijing visit had officially concluded, leaving key questions about the trip's impact on Iran and Hormuz unresolved.
This has been an incredible visit. I think a lot of good has come of it. We've made some fantastic trade deals, great for both countries. He's a man I respect greatly, become really a friend. We've known each other now 11 years, almost 12 years, it's a long time. And we've settled a lot of different problems that other people wouldn't have been able to settle. And the relationship is a very strong one. We did discuss Iran. We feel very similar to Iran. We want that to end. We don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. We want the straits open. We're closing it now. They closed it, and we closed it on top of them. But we want the straits open, and we want them to get it ended because it's a crazy thing. They're a little bit crazy. When it's no good, can't have it. They cannot have a nuclear weapon.